Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro 8.4. Priced at $399.99, this 16GB Wi-Fi only tablet seems to be one of the most compelling sub-10-inch tablets ever made. And that's because when you hear the specifications that it promises, even at its lofty $400 price point, it really is what many would consider a dream device. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, 16 gigs of internal storage. You can get this in a 32 gig capacity. Keep in mind this tablet does have a micro SD card slot for storage expansion. You can see that it does borrow most of its aesthetics, the looks, directly from the Galaxy Note 3 as well as the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. And that's because this brand new Pro line of tablets from Samsung is all about best-in-class offerings, but in some cases, like this one, the 8.4-inch, without the Note offering. Because in the past, the Galaxy Note offering has been Samsung's top-of-the-line product. Now, they have finally made tablets for those of you who felt like they were paying for the Note experience and didn't necessarily desire it, but did want that top-tier hardware. So that's what we've got here in a sub-10-inch form factor, something a lot of you have been waiting a long time for. In terms of specifications, again, that 8.4-inch display is where it all begins, and that's because it has a 2560 by 1600 resolution, making it pretty much one of the best displays in terms of at least pixel density on the market. In fact, I believe this does have the highest pixel density of any device out there. And that is a bragging right. It is a super clear LCD. Of course, this does support full HD playback as well as recording through its onboard 8 megapixel rear camera in terms of capture. GPS, you do have an infrared blaster like pretty much, I would say, every Samsung Galaxy Tab model, and really Samsung is defining the product lines now and, you know, separating premium from standard quality, and the regular Galaxy Tab line represents that middle of the road, more budget approach, and now we've got a Pro lineup to really encompass what should have always been there from the start. And unfortunately, as I mentioned before, the Note was really the only option when it came to Samsung's top of the line. Beyond that, the most important element for many of you is that Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 quad-core processor, and clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. It really is one of, if not the best performer in the business. Granted, it's slightly aged, it's not old yet, but in terms of processing power in tablets and smartphones, that's a rapidly changing market, and it has been around for a while. So even though it's still top tier, it is a lofty price point we're starting at here for $400. Granted, you will be hard-pressed to find a model that stands up to that, to this entire package, and that's because it simply does not exist. As I mentioned before, an 8-megapixel camera on the back with an LED flash. You also have a 2-megapixel camera up front, a 4,800 milliamp battery under the hood, which Samsung is promising, I believe, over 10 hours, 10, 11 hours of battery life. I'm expecting more like 8 to 9, but we'll see as I test it. And then lastly, 2 gigs of RAM. Also, we do, of course, have Bluetooth 4.0. No USB 3.0 on here, something that is on the Galaxy Note 12.2 Pro, so that's disappointing. Would have liked to have seen that for a variety of reasons. In addition to that, we, as I mentioned, have the infrared blaster, which allows you to use this tablet as a full-featured universal remote control, and dual-band Wi-Fi that is AC compatible. With that said, enough of an introduction to a tablet that I'm really excited to finally unbox, and let's get it out of the box. Again, the color options are black and white, 16 or 32 gigs on capacity. Personally, I think the 16 is the way to go. Generally, I would always suggest the 32, but if pricing is of any importance to you right now, then the 16 is the better option, especially since you do have that micro SD card slot for expansion. But generally, I will always recommend going for more internal storage if you're the sort of user that requires that space, because the speed and the utility of onboard storage is always going to trump a micro SD card slot, even though it's a great way to expand storage. So the first thing I can tell you out of the box right now, incredibly light. The build quality speaks to the same exact level of what I've experienced with the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition, as well as the Galaxy Note 3, and what I expect from the Galaxy Note Galaxy Note Tab 12.2 Pro, and that's got that same plastic, almost metallic looking, at least that's what it's supposed to appear like, finish going around that bezel, the faux leather back, which you'll see as I remove the plastic. And essentially, there has been a change here on the buttons. We've now got a back button, a home button, and instead of a, we now have the multitask button rather than a menu button here. So that is one of the big modifications. Samsung, on all of their previous devices, this is a departure from that orientation of control. Pretty much, they are taking on Google's approach, which is a good thing. I'm not saying this was part of the discussion Google's had with Samsung about their devices, but it does speak to uniformity, at least in terms of making consumers a little bit less confused about Android devices and how they work. I mentioned the Wi-Fi certification, Bluetooth 4.0. Let's get this thing, or give this thing a closer look. In terms of the physical button here, it's really a matter of personal preference. Some people love it, some people hate it. In terms of the actual width of the device, I can tell you, definitely not the easiest to use with one hand. It's going to depend on how large your hands actually are, but for the average person, this is still going to be a two-handed experience, which for a sub 10-inch tablet may be less than ideal. But let's see, let me give you a tour around the tablet. We'll start on the right side, and as you can see, we've got our power button. I'm going to move the box out of focus here. We've got our power button right there, our volume rocker right next to it, the IR blaster for that universal remote control functionality I mentioned before. On the bottom of the tablet, we have two stereo speakers, which are flanking that center port, which is the USB 2.0 charging port. That's a micro USB connection, and we'll see that cable in a moment. Then we've got the micro SD card slot right there for storage expansion. And in terms of the top of the tablet, we have our 3.5mm headphone jack. Let me go ahead and get the plastic off the back of this device. Look for the simplest pull tab here. And there is that faux leather finish that Samsung has on all of their latest devices, the premium ones, I should mention, with even that stitch, which I'm not a fan of. But the actual benefit of having this finish, in my opinion, definitely outweighs their previous design. I mean, nobody is really a fan of high gloss plastic, so definitely better to see something that isn't a fingerprint magnet, has some grip texture, or a grip-like texture, something more prone to being able to give you a more firm hold on the tablet, not a slippery feel like the high gloss plastic finish. The 8-megapixel camera right there with LED flash, and that pretty much rounds out the actual overview of the tablet itself. Let's see if I can power it up. We'll see if there's any juice, and there is. And the display, without any hesitation, is the absolute bragging right of this device. The fact that it just happens to combine best-in-class hardware throughout is exactly why it is adorned with that Pro name. So I'm not going to take you through the setup now. Samsung does throw on a tremendous amount of software on here. Really just wanted to show off the actual display itself, and that's why I'm skipping straight through. I have to understand the agreement. You can see they want to go through location, they want to go through pretty much everything. You know, Dropbox is going to, I assume, be prompted to set up. Yeah, here we go with the Samsung account. I mean, Samsung really knows that if you're going to spend this sort of money for a sub 10-inch tablet, it has to be powerful, and that's what they've delivered here. That's why I mentioned before, it is really compelling to me personally, because often corners are cut, and here the only thing I can see right now out of the box that maybe I wish they had done was a Super AMOLED display. By the way, the 2-megapixel camera right there on the front to the right of the Samsung logo, and we've also got a light proximity sensor there for adjusting or auto-tuning screen brightness, which you can see is in effect right now. But there's the display, the magazine UX interface coming up immediately, and just a whole redesign of, not complete, but a very large redesign of the software on this tablet. And it'll be interesting to see what the experience is like with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor as opposed to the Exynos 5 environment that the Galaxy Note 10 2014 edition sports. This applies as well to the Galaxy Note 12.2 Pro that I'll also be reviewing in the future. So new software, new hardware, best-in-class screen, really nothing to dislike here other than if you actually take issue with the design, and the fact that it's one of the thinnest and lightest tablets ever made should also be something that should get you excited. I mean, this tablet is literally under 12 ounces. So a lot of mobile computing power here. Android version KitKat out of the box, 4.4, the latest OS. And I know one of the major concerns with Samsung tablets is clearly software support. You know, how many updates is Samsung actually going to push to this? They are interested in continuing to manufacture and sell new models every year, and that's a given. It's the nature of the business. If you don't want to take on that sort of ecosystem for upgrading, then you really need to go with a Nexus device. But there are inherent complications with that device as well. As you can see, we've got our wall wart or AC adapter. Your micro USB cable that's right here is going to plug into that, as well as your tablet to charge. And then we've got some paperwork. This comes with quite a few perks. I'm not going to take you through those right now. Again, just part of Samsung's marketing of their Galaxy Tab lineup, especially the higher end ones like the Note lineup and now the Pro lineup, which encompasses both the Note brand as well as what Samsung, again, is offering as their best-in-class tablets. And I'm excited that they've finally done this. This is something that I've kind of waited for Samsung to do for a long, long time. And this is arguably one of the most interesting of these new offerings because their best 8-inch tablet to date was the Galaxy Note 8, and even though this doesn't have the pen feature, which I would like to see Samsung bring out, I'm hoping that an 8.4 Note is in the works, a Pro. But if not, again, Samsung just acknowledging that consumers are out there that would prefer to not necessarily feel like they were paying for the Note experience, and that's exactly what this does, but also pushes the envelope because, again, in terms of specifications, this just kills everything else on the market, from screen resolution, processing power. I didn't even mention graphics. That's something I'll get to in another update. So an incredibly powerful, incredibly small and light tablet. Yes, it may require two hands, but that's not necessary for everyone. And I think this is going to be a winner without any hesitation. This is the most promising member, I believe, of the brand new Pro lineup. So there you have it, the unboxing of the brand new Galaxy Tab Pro 8.4. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.